firstly, I have to serve the military.
Mm-hmm.
So in Singapore, we have national service. So Singaporeans or permanent residents aged 18 and above have to go and serve the nation. And I think there are 3 core departments. So there will be the army,
Mm-hmm.
the police force, and civil defense, which is like the firefighters and the medics.
Mm.
And we will go in for 2 years. Then after that, every year until we reach around 40, we have to go for reservist.
Mm.
So maybe for a period of time, we have to every year we have to go back and serve. Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to the Easy English Interviews Podcast Season 2. My name is Chris Kent. I'm an Associate Professor of English as a second language in Japan. This podcast has been created to give English students some easy and interesting listening practice. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next interview. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 4. For today's podcast, I would like to focus on 2 things. The first thing is the use of something called sequencers. Sequencers are used to help someone explain a series of events. They help the listener to know that the subject of your conversation takes place in a certain order. Some common sequencers are first, next, then, after that, when, and finally. For example, a speaker might say, "First, I will study for my English test. Next, I will study science. After that, I will study math. And finally, I will take a break and relax." Using these words will make your English much easier to understand. Particularly in today's podcast, listen to how Harris describes what his plans are for his future. The second thing I would like to focus on is the use of the phrase, "I guess." English speakers use the phrase, "I guess," when they are about to say something that they are not so sure about. They can also use "I guess" at the end of a sentence. For example, I might say, "It's cloudy this evening. I guess it will rain tomorrow." Or I might say, "You look tired, so you want to go to sleep, I guess." Finally, at the end of today's podcast, as usual for Season 2, listen to the comprehension questions and feel free to try to answer the questions in real time if you can. If you need to, write down the questions first and then listen again to practice answering. Okay, so let's get to it. Please enjoy today's Easy English interview. Okay, well, today I have a very interesting guest today, and his name is Harris. And Harris, can you please tell me where you are from?
Hi, I'm from Singapore.
From Singapore. Well, thank you for doing this interview.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'll just ask you a few simple questions. My first question is, what school do you go to in Singapore, and what are you studying there?
Oh, in Singapore, I go to Republic Polytechnic, and I study Diploma in Information Technology.
Information technology.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. So if you're studying there, obviously you've been there for, I guess, a few years. How long have you been studying there?
This is my 3rd year of studying, which is the last year. Then next year I'll be graduating.
I see. Okay. And why did you decide to come to Japan to do some studying?
For me, as soon as I saw the opportunity to go to Japan, I took it. Why Japan? For me, I really enjoy consuming the media, Japanese media. So anime, shows, movies, and not only just the media, but the language. I think is very, very interesting. But also the food. Yeah, I really love Japanese food. So with all those factors combined, I think Japan was a really appealing place for me to study. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so it's not only just what it is that you're studying, but it's also the culture, I guess, is why you wanted to come to Japan. Interesting. Okay. So now that you're here in Japan, can you tell me, what is your daily schedule like? What is it that you do every day?
For me, my schedule is actually quite packed. Yeah, so I get up at around 8 in the morning, and I clean up, wash my face, shower, have some breakfast, and then around 9 o'clock I head to the lab. The lab, my lab is the hydrology lab at the Department of Civil Engineering. Yeah, so I'll be doing my research from 9 to 12, and then 12 to 1 is lunchtime, and then from 1 to 4 I'll be continuing my research.
Okay, so that sounds like a very busy schedule. So now that you have been in Japan for a little while, can you tell me, what do you think is the best thing about living and studying in Japan?
For me, studying and living in Japan would be best thing would be the weather. I think it's very, very cooling and it's very, very nice. So compared to Singapore, where it's very hot and humid and it's almost always 30 degrees Celsius. So over here, sometimes it's right now it's autumn, so it's usually around 15, 16 degrees in the afternoon. At night it gets really, really cold, which makes it very comfortable to sleep.
I see. So the weather is the best part. So what do you think would be the worst thing then?
For me, the worst thing would be the language barrier. Yeah, because before I came to Japan, I was a bit too busy with certain projects, so I didn't really have time to prepare myself, such as learning the basics of Japanese language. Yeah, so when I came here, then I find it very difficult, especially on the first day where we had to go to Nagano ourselves from the airport. So there were times that we got lost, and sometimes we had to use the Google Translate to find our way around.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then we had to we know some basic Japanese phrases, so we use them to ask the locals, like where is the Shinkansen and all that. So even in the lab, sometimes I have difficulties communicating with my laboratory mates. But I try my best. I try my best to learn a bit of the language.
Yeah, I think that's definitely difficult if you didn't have any sort of preparation. It's kind of like just being dropped in, having to learn the language right on the go. But it's interesting that you could use, Google Translate a little bit to help you with finding directions and stuff like that. I think, the nice thing is that in Japan, people are fairly friendly, and they'll probably, even if they can't understand you, they'll keep trying to help you.
Yes.
So that's good, I think. Okay, but definitely I think language barrier is a very difficult thing. When I first came to Japan, I think it was quite difficult for me because I was in the same position as you. I hadn't really studied much. I think I took one very basic course, like how to read hiragana or katakana. But the speaking it took me about 6 months to be able to have a conversation. So yeah, it's difficult. Okay. So after you have finished your study abroad here in Japan, what is your plan?
Firstly, I have to serve the military. So in Singapore, we have national service. So Singaporeans or permanent residents aged 18 and above have to go and serve the nation. And I think there are 3 core departments. So there will be the army, the police force, and civil defense, which is like the firefighters and the medics. And we will go in for 2 years. Then after that, every year until we reach around 40, we have to go for reservist. So maybe for a period of time, we have to every year we have to go back and serve.
So that when you're a reservist, when you have to go back every year, how long is that for? Like just a couple days or?
A few weeks.
Oh, really? A few weeks? Oh, wow. Yeah, that can put a real damper on any holiday plans. Well, but I do think, though, it's kind of a good idea. I mean, in Canada, I'm from Canada, and we don't have that type of, mandatory service, but maybe it kind of teaches you a lot of skills, maybe, about, physical, for your body, also for your mental toughness.
Yeah, a lot of discipline.
Yeah, discipline. So maybe it'll be good. And then after that, what do you plan to do?
After that, I plan to go to university, but I've not looked into where I want to go. Preferably local university. But the universities in Singapore are quite difficult to get into. Yeah, even with decent GPA.
Right. Well, yeah, I know that there are some of the top universities in the world, so it's quite difficult, I imagine, to get in. Yeah. If you were to study abroad, have you thought about a country where you'd like to go to university?
Preferably English-speaking countries,
Mm-hmm.
maybe Australia, anywhere in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
maybe Canada or US.
Well, I can vouch for Canada. It's a good place. Well, that's interesting that you have all those different choices. I think that your experience in Japan will help you in the future when you're living in another foreign country. Is this the first time you have been to Japan?
Yeah, it's my first time. It's my first time overseas also.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you picked a good first place to visit.
I think so.
Okay, so I'd like to ask you one more question, and that is about advice. If you have any advice for students who are studying a foreign language like English, what would you suggest for them? Because most of the people who listen to this podcast are studying English.
My advice to everyone will be to consume as much media as you can. So let's say movies, television shows, music, even podcasts. So I think when you consume them, listen to them, watch them, I think subconsciously you take in some of the words, maybe the grammar, the vocabulary. So even when you're studying, right, it might come a bit more naturally to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially if you're consuming media that's something that you really enjoy or that you really like, then you don't even feel like you're studying. You just feel like you're watching something or getting some other enjoyment out of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you like any Japanese media?
Anime.
Anime you said before, right? Yeah. So, but do you have a particular anime that you like?
No. I try to watch the mainstream ones.
The main ones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Japanese anime are good because I think they repeat a lot of phrases and words over and over. So that's good for learning too, I think. Yeah. All right. Well, Harris, thank you very much for coming and doing this interview today. And I wish you all the best on your internship and in the future.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so here are the comprehension questions for episode 4. Number 1. What type of technology is Harris studying? Number 2. When will he be graduating? Number 3. What type of media does he enjoy consuming? Number 4. What time does Harris wake up in the morning? Number 5. What does Harris think is the worst thing about being in Japan? Number 6. Where was Harris going when he got lost in Japan? Number 7. How many courses did Chris take before he came to Japan? Number 8. For how long will Harris have to go back to his mandatory military service every year until he is 40? Number 9. If he can't get into a local university in Singapore, what type of country would he like to try to study in? Number 10. When Harris went overseas for the first time, what was the first country he visited? Okay, well that's it for episode 4 of season 2. I'll see you again in episode 5. And don't forget to please share this podcast with anyone that is also studying English like yourself, or anyone who's just interested in having a good listen. And finally, don't forget that the textbook for Season 1 is still on sale at Amazon.com. Just type in Easy English Interviews and you'll be able to grab a copy. Okay, bye for now, and as always, thank you very much for listening.